England. And actually, it's going to be right. And so when it was, right there. When it was discovered, I want to say right before World War II broke out. So it's this huge archaeological discovery, and the objects from Sutton Hoo are today in the British Museum in London, and then it sort of had to be sat on for a couple of years because other things were going on. And then it really caught people's attention because you had these wonderfully preserved, exceptionally high status objects like these shoulder clasps. These things are tiny. They're about this big. You have this intricate metalworking, this intricate goldsmithing. You had Byzantine bowls. You had helmets. You had objects that had come from Constantinople, objects that were made locally, all within the Sutton Hoo burial. And we see here this gold, and then this garnet, this red garnet, this inlay, and this blue glass. And we look at the top, and we see something that doesn't look particularly Mediterranean. We see something that looks flat and abstracted. We are seeing, they're so wonderful, these two little boars. Now, let's find them. Okay, they're both eating. So we have a hind leg here, we have a curly little tail, and then we can follow the ridge, and that comes down right there, and then you have the head. And then there's the forearm right there. And then the other one has the hind leg and the curly little tail, and then you have the ridge of the back, and then that comes, and then you have the head right there. So you have this delightful sort of zoomorphic decoration, which you have these nice two little boars that are sort of crossed. You have this gold wire that is just twisted and braided and then sort of soldered to the back plate there. And you also have some other animals here. You have what looks like these serpent figures, and it looks like they're twisting, and it looks like they're biting their tails, or they're biting the tail of the serpent next to them. We call this, when you have this knotted rope-like work, we call that interlace. We are going to see a lot of interlace. Interlace is something that we already see in ancient Roman art. Medieval artists, however, are going to do rather fascinating and inventive things with interlace. We like to call interlace that has animals woven throughout it, animal interlace. So we have a very nice example of animal interlace from the Sutton Hoo shoulder clasp. Oh, and you know what? Yes, have a close-up of the hindquarters of that boar, and then also the head of this one. And so you can see, this is a little blurry, but it's very difficult to, though this isn't my photograph, it's very difficult in general to photograph shiny things, so this is great that we have this close-up. See how it's a little bit textured, it looks like, through the cut garnet? What they're doing is that they're actually taking sort of sheets of gold, and they're sort of laying it down beneath the garnet, and then the garnet goes on top of it, and that makes it extra lustrous. And then we have that wonderful sort of checkerboard blue glass and red garnet pattern up there. And you can just see the fastidiousness of this and the care with which this wonderful gold wire is twisted and laid in. Yeah?
So can people still do things like this, or has this tradition been lost?
Oh, I think we can still do this. Yeah.
Okay.
By hand?
You know, is there a jewelry studio here? One of my great regrets from, there are a lot of things in college that I wish I had done. One of them is that there was a jewelry studio on campus, and I think you could just, well, I think you had to pay a little fee, and you could just go make jewelry and learn how to make jewelry. I work with this stuff all the time. I wish I knew how to make jewelry, because it would be very helpful for my understanding of this. To answer your question, I think we can do that today. It's rather remarkable. It's one of those things, I want to say it's rather remarkable that they could do it back then. At the same time, this is sort of a tip of the iceberg. So we need to imagine this well-populated society that had these pockets of wealth and that had these craftsmen that could do things like this. This is interesting now that you asked that question, I'm sort of thinking, because I want to say, here's something that I don't know if we know how to do today, or if we can do it, it's only very tricky. I may mention this again. When we talk about manuscripts, and we'll talk about manuscripts in depth, manuscript is made on animal skin. So you need these animal skins, these animal membranes. You need to dry them, you need to prepare them, you need to make them pliable. Something that they did in the medieval period is that you would get your animal skin, and then they had a way of sort of peeling it apart and peeling it into two membranes to make it even thinner. That is something that people can't do easily today, but I'm sure someone somewhere has sort of figured it out. That's a skill that's been lost. Yeah?
How would these have been worn?
Oh, in terms of the shoulder clasp, I don't know. In terms of how that little pin and that little chain, how they come together, I actually don't know. But you know what? We have depictions of people wearing things like this. So people in general know very precisely how these, and also all those brooches and all those pins that we were looking at would have been worn. So we have Sutton Hoo. Oh, look at this. Nice close-up of that animal interlace. You can see that wonderful gold. Aha! We have this purse cover. And so this white stuff that's sort of been added in afterwards. Okay. Now we have these animals seen in such heavy profile, such stylized bodies. We have this little man here. It looks like he has a mustache. Looks like there are these two little animals that are sort of nibbling on him, or at least just sort of, maybe this is a harmonious joining of the three things, or maybe it's more combative. Then you have what looks like this really big bird, and then a smaller duck-like bird right there, and then a really big bird, and you have this curved beak, and then this smaller little duck beak over there. You have the sky again. You have these, can't even really make out what type of animals they are. It looks like serpent figures, but suddenly they have little arms as well. And then we see this interlace that's just kind of also inhabiting this space between them. So we have this animal interlace, we have this zoomorphic approach to decoration, and we are going to see that when the British Isles, when they begin producing a lot of books and painting a lot of books, this vocabulary is going to be present in those books. And that's going to be the cover seen from, the purse cover seen from the side. And I think we will stop there, and we will pick up on Tuesday. And let me just check the syllabus before we leave. Oh, good. Yes. On Tuesday, we have this interesting reading by Ben Tillman that's going to talk about this particular object, which is referred to as the Franks casket, and it's going to talk about what we call insular and Anglo-Saxon art in general. Okay, I look forward very much to reading your papers. Everyone have a very good weekend.
Thank you.